Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are, everyone. I'm so glad that you were able to join us today. We're going to get started now. Hey, I am so excited to welcome you to our workshop for today. Our Building Responsible AI, a practical guide for PMs with Alisa Fortin, our product manager and supporter from Google DeepMind. This is going to be a real treat, you guys. We are so excited to have you here today. My name is Adrienne Guy. I am the co-founder of Creator Fest, and I'll be your technical support dedicated for this session. Before we get started, I just want to make sure that everyone is set up to have the best experience possible. So if you have any questions or run into any issues during the session, feel free to reach out to me directly in the chat, and I'll be here the entire time to help you out. So just a quick note about how we're going to be using this tool today. You can see a Q&A feature right to your right in the toolbar, and you can feel free to use that Q&A tab next to the chat to submit any questions you have for Alisa. And if you'd like to share your reactions, you can use the emojis at the bottom, and you can also use the chat to engage with like gifts or any kind of feedback. So let's keep this interactive and fun. And I'm so excited to introduce our amazing speaker for today's workshop, Alisa Fortin. All right, guys.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Adrienne. I'm so excited to be here. Let me start with my slideshow. We will do a quick intro, we'll do a presentation, and then I'm hoping to have kind of an engaging discussion at the end. So bear with me, I'm going to share my screen here. Okay, so building responsible AI, a practical guide for PMs. I'll start with introducing myself, a little bit about me. My name is Alisa Fortin. I am a mom of two cute little adventurous girls. In between being a mom and working, I try to keep up with my hobbies, which is being outdoors and doing active things as often as I can. And my personal career passion is organizational productivity. So, how do we make teams work happier and be more productive while they are engaging with their teams? So, a little bit about my career journey. I followed my passion and started my career producing video games for a casual gaming company called Big Fish here in Seattle. And what I learned is I'm passionate about making the video game players or users feel successful, because really when playing games, like, they want to be appropriately challenged, but they're really after that win. Then I started managing a team and started using all these horrible B2B SaaS applications. So then the next phase of my career is I was looking for stability. I moved to B2B SaaS, and I really was excited to bring my gaming skills into helping people have a better user experience while using those applications. And then the next chapter is cloud computing. I joined AWS to help with data center automation, specifically with applying the technician's skills to the right repair tasks within the data centers. And that's what led me to Google to do a similar role about a little over a year ago. While I was at Google, of course, became interested in AI. I was using AI in all of my previous roles. So I seized the opportunity to join Google DeepMind and get myself closer to all of the hype and the buzz. And so right now, I am working as a product manager on the Gemini developer APIs, which is the quickest way to get started with Google's first party Gen AI models. And then the playground for that is Google AI Studio, where you can explore the model output via like this really cool and engaging UI. So that's a bit about me, and then let's move on to the agenda for today. Is the motto for today is building bold and responsible AI and doing it together. So I'll walk you through some challenges and opportunities that come up as AI landscape is evolving. I'll touch on a little bit about Google DeepMind's approach to building responsible Gen AI, and then we'll talk through some of the tooling and specifically with the applications that I support that could be useful for builders like yourselves. And now that we've covered the agenda, let's move on to what opportunities responsible AI can offer you and some difficulties that you may need to consider along the way. So, first of all, what do I mean by responsible AI? It seems like a buzzword and a term that is used a lot these days in a lot of different ways. And if you're not quite sure what this definition is, you're in good company. No one really knows, and there isn't like a standard definition. But I think of responsible AI as this constellation of terms. There is a focus on more concepts and values like fairness, accountability, transparency, explainability. There are also some related terms and practices like AI governance, human centered design, safety, trustworthiness, of course, privacy and security. Responsible AI really encompasses many of these concepts and practices, but our understanding is constantly evolving and will continue to grow and change. What responsible AI is, though, it's just not about avoiding harm. It unlocks unique opportunities for developers to innovate, and it helps them differentiate their products and build trust with users in this highly competitive market where anyone can be a builder. So let's talk about some of the opportunities that responsible AI and building responsibly offers. So first of all, as I already said, it enhances trust and brand loyalty. It gives users confidence and make sure that you can retain them longer term. They're more likely to stick around with apps that respect privacy, fairness, and accountability, and transparently explain any of the decisions that are made with AI. For example, why did this specific recommendation appear to me? Knowing that fosters trust with users. And then it also gives a reputation boost. Ethical AI really becomes a brand differentiator. So think of apps like Signal, messaging app that um, respects privacy first approach versus some of its competitors. Compliance can also be used as a market advantage. So, um, if you adhere to regulations like GDPR, CCPA, EU AI Act, it gives you global market access. It essentially lets you launch in regions with strict AI laws much easier. And then competitive differentiation. You can highlight your responsible AI practicing in marketing. For example, I'm building a bias free hiring tool or a privacy preserving health AI application. And you can also get access to some niche markets and serve underserved groups, like creating apps for people with disabilities that use fair and accessible AI models. There's many benefits that we kind of won't discuss at length here, but the last one I want to also focus on is by building applications that are regulation ready, you are essentially future proofing yourself and you're staying ahead of any evolving laws, like, for example, the EU Act, AI Act classifications. And your applications become adaptable if you're using ethical frameworks. And it's much easier to pivot when new risks emerge. For example, dealing with deep fakes or the general Gen AI misuse. Here are some examples of the apps that you probably all know that were able to capitalize and build reputation on using AI ethically. So Duolingo uses AI to personalize learning, but they're very clear and transparent about their data privacy and data use and privacy policies. Headspace, I really love this app. Gen AI really is revolutionizing mental health care, and product teams need to create and follow guardrails that allow for safe experimentation and protect against catastrophes of any size. So, what I have learned is that the Headspace team has a framework that covers some core principles and it guides them in making decisions about experimenting and innovating with AI. And one of them is this cool question that they ask: does this product make a user feel better versus just increasing engagement? And then the next example is Waze. So this app balances crowdsourced data with privacy safeguards. So they anonymize the data that they collect. So some key challenges with taking the responsible AI approach is that really there's no size fits all approach, right? The landscape is unclear, it's constantly evolving, new technologies are getting introduced, and um, also new risks are coming up all the time. AI is getting regulated now, but the standards are unclear, they're fragmented, they're constantly changing. So some of the challenges, like we discussed, is adapting to regional differences. So EU regulations, for example, are much stricter than the United States. So your launch strategies need to be different and adjusting. And then future proofing against any upcoming laws that you may not even know about. One thing that I find very important to solve for is it's not clear who's driving accountability and governance. So if you think of the examples of the Tesla autopilot accidents or insurance companies using AI to deny claims, hiring tools that have algorithms that reject candidates that are qualified for the role. Who is responsible for these failures? Is it developers or the companies or the users? Unclear and yet to be determined and standardized. It's also AI, responsible AI makes it difficult to balance innovation and ethics because ethical safeguards really do slow down dev life cycles. Um, the Gen AI tools can restrict harmful content, but it also reduces creativity. And then the cutting edge models become slower to deploy because we are doing so much of the fairness evaluations and testings. Additionally, AI systems are very vulnerable to any attacks. So, chatbots, for example, are manipulated all the time to generate harmful content. And so the challenge is really proactively testing for vulnerabilities in this threat landscape that's constantly changing, and then being able to balance your app's usability, but also security safeguards that you're putting in place. So the next section, I'll talk about some tenets that Google DeepMind specifically has when it comes to responsible AI. So when it comes to developing and using AI, our approach is about finding that balance. We want to unleash all of the potential of AI, but we also want to be responsible. What this means is that we're constantly weighing the benefits against the risks. We try to avoid unfair biases. We put strong safety measures in place. We keep a lot of humans in the loop when evaluating AI. And we are working and making sure that we're really open and transparent with our customers and users about how their data is used. So we're ultimately striving for excellence. We are committed to limiting any harmful uses because the technology is really powerful and we want this AI to be a force of good. So what you see on the slide is um, the principles that we are driven by in our AI development. So when we're building AI, our products go through rigorous review process. We want to make sure that we can identify and mitigate any potential harm. So the first thing that we do is we standardize any product harms and context and create a repeatable and efficient process for evaluation that can also scale. We have leveraged external and internal assessment frameworks. And this overall process for evaluating our models and products that use AI is well tracked and documented. So we have historical insights that inform our future strategy as well. So, what does that mean in practice is that we have two major themes. So, we have technical mitigation, and safety evaluation. So for technical mitigation, we follow different model safety policies that essentially steer our development and evals. And the definition within the policy is they act as a standardized criteria for responsible development. We also carefully curate data. Our training data is filtered for high risk content and to ensure that we have the highest quality data. And then our post training has supervised fine tuning and reinforcement learning through human feedback using a reward model. So we really are focused on how to meet this fast moving dynamic safety environment, but also ensure that our models are helpful and harmless. One thing also to consider is localization. We often include regional experts to identify different topics that we need to use for the supervised fine tuning of data to make sure that we meet different social context and cultural context as well. And then for safety evaluations, we do various levels of safety testing during development. And these safety evaluations both take place at model level and product level as well. So we take into account the safety context of the product itself, the competitive landscape, and the user experience as well. So what we practice what's called red teaming, which is adversarial testing by specialist teams. And it's designed to identify any new vulnerabilities. And then we have also assurance evaluations, and they're conducted by independent groups within Google that do own governance and then review these models and products for any safety issues. And then we also have external evaluations, and they're performed by independent external expert groups to identify any blind spots that we might have missed internally. So I know how challenging this work is because I have been focusing on trust and safety and any new release, whether it's public or experimental. Um, I ensure rigorous safety testing for both Gemini APIs and Google AI Studio. So I'm I'm constantly seeing teams working to improve our analysis, reviews, recommendations. We've learned a lot, and I would like to share some tools that we have added to the developers' toolboxes in our products that I'm working on. So the first one is content moderation. So in our application and applications and APIs, we gave developers a flexible and easy way to moderate content through the use of safety filters. So this is especially helpful if you're building like a chatbot application. And these safety filters are classified into different harm categories or topics that may be considered sensitive by the users. And each safety attribute is associated with a confidence score. And we're essentially assigning safety ratings and severity levels or scores. And these safety settings are being able to toggled by the developers to use in their specific applications. And then developers can also use what's called the system instruction, where you specify product level behavior. So when you set a system instruction, you essentially give the model additional context to better understand the task and adhere to specific guidelines over the user interaction. So here I have an example of, hey, the system instruction is that you're helpful and harmless AI assistant. You provide accurate and informative answers to user questions, but you avoid generating responses that could be harmful. And so if the user asks, hey, can you how can I steal? Give me instructions how to steal from a department store. The model will refuse to provide a response or a plan. And then our services are also intended to produce original content. So we really want to make sure that the system doesn't give any copyrighted material back to the user. And so we've designed the citation tooling and services so we can limit the chances of replicating this copywriting material. And if the features in our applications do quote from a book or a website at length, we will cite those specific pages and make sure that the users know that the material is quoted. And then finally, for our image and video generation models, we use a watermarking service that allows users to watermark and verify AI generated images. We adhere to best practices around human image generation and specifically um, children generation. Like typically, we're very strict, and children generation is restricted by default. If a customer does choose to generate images of children, we use the highest safety filters at the model level to make sure that these images are completely safe. Um, Prompt and images are also that are generated or uploaded by users are also going through this internal safety filtering system, and they're assessed against a list of safety attributes. They're filtered out based on these safety thresholds that I talked about earlier. And then increased transparency for generative AI models is really the goal here. So even though we have some tooling that we provide, we're constantly working to improve it. We know that we don't have all of the answers. Um, but Google has made a lot of education and best practices available with the goal to advance the AI industry. So some of the examples you see on the slide, you can quickly find in our public pages. There are some free trainings, guidebooks, published research. But also, whenever we release new AI models, we publish what's called a public model card. And they're aimed at any kind of type of user. So whether you're expert or non-expert, the model cards really provide information on the strengths and weaknesses of that particular model. So you can choose which model would be best for your specific application. And then you can also share information with users on model strengths and avoid emphasizing the weaknesses. And so these cards are easily found. They're published with the new models in our model garden. So these are kind of some of the resources that you're able to use. And then I wanted to leave you also with kind of a more practical tool. So this is a short version of a template for our red teaming exercise that we do. That we use essentially to mitigate any issues that can delay launches. This red team thought exercise essentially helps play through these hypothetical threats that might impact the product that we're building. And the neat thing about it is it's a thought exercise. So it doesn't actually require a built product. Or a product to be fully built or created, and that can be done very early in your development life cycle, even at the concept stages, when it's relatively easy to make any changes and it's also cheap as well. So within this template, we briefly describe here's the scope of my product. Here are some of the features that the users will mostly care about. And this helps the readers quickly understand the different threats that we might be working with. And then who are the threat actors who potentially are motivated to work against your product and why? And what would be the worst case scenario of an attack. And then we make some implicit assumptions like what do the users think of our product and feature, and what safety expectations do they have that we need to make sure that we emphasize in our testing. And then we think of things like reputational harm. Like if something were to go wrong and you ended up in this kind of PR nightmare on X or Twitter or various social media or news channels, talk about what things could go wrong and what could paint your product in a bad light and how do you mitigate against that. Um, then we discuss other common AI risks like AI models can hallucinate, people can jailbreak them. There are some potential dangerous capabilities. So we describe the likelihood of this happening, how high the impact would be, and what are some of the worst case scenarios that we need to mitigate against. And then some other risks like integration, process, infrastructure issues. Again, we outline them, have mitigation plans. At a company as large as Google, of course, like we have security reviewers, and our security teams are super excited to see a document like this, because it demonstrates to them that we have already thought about all the kinds of different ways where things could go wrong. So I'm happy to share kind of a more in-depth template, but definitely recommend this exercise for anyone that's in the early stages of developing and thinking through their product and use cases and customers. So that's it for my presentation. I hope it was useful to you. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm excited to be here today, and I'd love to offer up also some discussion topics. I know we have some time left for Q&A, so we can dive into a discussion, or I'm happy to answer any questions.
Amazing. So, if you guys would like to throw any of your questions for Q&A in the Q&A section of the chat, we can go ahead and go review them. Or if you would like to raise your hand, you're welcome to raise your hand and you can come on stage. So, I already see that there's a question here from Swanpali. How is the right balance struck between creating unbiased AI products while also ensuring effective customer personalization?
Oh, that's a very great question. I don't know if anyone has a good answer to that, right? Because we're still exploring. But what we typically will do is our products open up for what's called early access programs, where we have testers under NDA, and we specifically ask them to comment on our filters, on our model responses. Are the model responses too restrictive? Does it limit their use case? We categorize these users into different buckets. Like, for example, folks that are building chatbots, folks that are creating like AI movies, folks that are writing books with the help of AI. And we collect all of the feedback and assess it against um, our policy, right? So we have the tenets where um, for example, AI absolutely cannot be producing harmful content that could harm a person, a human, um, an animal, or anyone really. Sexually explicit goes against our policy guidelines. So the policy really is what helps um, guide that balance. Aside from that, we do want to offer users freedom to experiment and explore and make sure that they're getting all the creativity and all the answers from the LLM model that they need.
That was an awesome question and a thoughtful answer. Thank you, Alisa. We have another question from Deepa. What key generative AI tools do I need to know to use for modern PM as I'm a developer and I'm looking to start a PM career? Great question, Deepa.
Okay, so you are a developer right now and you're looking to start your PM career. I really think you do have all the tools you need already, right? So some of the things, and it's not necessarily in the tools. And I'm sharing this with you as a non-technical PM with a journalism degree that had to learn to be technical. So you're kind of on the opposite, uh, you're looking at it from the opposite perspective. So some of the things to start thinking about is you're really knowing who your users are and what their motivations are and what are the use cases that your product needs to work on. So the tool in the toolkit is really, um, I think, kind of basic interviewing capabilities of interviewing the users and understanding their motivations. So psychology. And then the other tool, like depending on what company you're aiming to work on, at Google, for example, or larger tech companies, there's a lot of internal stakeholders. So shipping a product is really kind of an exercise of navigating the inside the building challenges, right? You're navigating multiple teams to make sure your product goes through development, through testing. A lot of stakeholders have input. So as a PM, it's my job to collect all of that input, make everyone feel heard, but also make a decision that's best for the user, which is, I think, kind of a skill that I was learning as a PM over the years. Um, Let me see. Can I think of a third thing? I think you already have it. Being able to work with developers and truly engineers and truly explain to them what the business cases are and what you're looking for as an outcome of within your product. I think you would have a very good advantage because you already have that background. Hopefully that answers your question.
That was a great question. Um, and thank you, Pramelia. Could you please refresh the survey? And then you should see the option available. So thanks for bringing that to my attention. She caught that the survey wasn't on the list. It should show there now. Um,
No.
no, it's all good. We got it. Um, so Alisa, I'm really curious. We have a lot of women and allies that are a part of the Create Her Fest community that are so enamored by all the possibilities that AI brings, and they're all interested in building with it. However, how I know that there's an opportunity here for us to really make a difference and really create an impact if we can come together and collectively push the importance of, the consideration of building responsibly with
Mhm.
AI. Can you give an example from your time with Google DeepMind where you really just saw firsthand your ability to directly contribute to the impact of like building responsible AI, and like how that affected you and like, how it affected and impacted other people?
Oh, this is a great question. I would say, and I'll be completely transparent, where I see the most contribution is really in harm reduction. The reality is that um, our tool, right, our IDE, which is the playground, to see the outputs of Gemini API, we have this kind of more of a consumer audience where anyone can come in and play, and we're also the tool that launches all the newest models. So there is a lot of people that enjoy coming in and jailbreaking the model and then posting some awful responses or model outputs on their Twitter or on Reddit. And so for me, where I've seen the most impact is risk mitigation. Um, Around harm. And I don't necessarily want to go into like the deep dark places that people have tried to take these LLMs and even the diffusion models, but it's kind of thinking ahead and creating tooling and services that prevent the jailbreaks, creating more robust services that monitor for these harmful posts, where we're able to like have a quick reaction, whether it's through the system instruction where we guide the model or through the filters. So this is where I see the most impact right now. What I'd like to do in the future, though, is as this landscape, as AI kind of gets commoditized and we know more about its uses and applications, like how can we proactively make it safer um, for humans? Like, are there some services and tools that we can build without limiting AI's creativity that will also prevent any further harm? And I don't have these answers yet, but that's kind of has been my goal on the team.
And I'm excited. Thank you for sharing that answer. And I want to encourage all of us that are either able to join us today, as well as anyone who's able to watch this recording, to share in asking these exact same questions, because there's such an opportunity here as you guys are learning how to be impactful in terms of your skill building and what you can contribute to, that we can be aligned on wanting to focus on building things that help and mitigating the risks that can harm. So I'm really excited that we were able to have this conversation today. I want to ask you guys to please give Alisa a round of applause for being an amazing leader for this incredible session. I want to thank you guys for joining us, and please don't forget to fill out the survey. If you can, give us feedback and let us know how great that Alisa did, and give us the opportunity to leverage that feedback to bring you more amazing workshop leaders and topics, just like what Alisa brought us today. So I hope that you guys can enjoy the rest of your Learnathon. We're going to be going into the end of February, so this is going to really continue. We have the opportunity to really create impact here, and I'm so glad that you guys want to join us for this journey. So thank you so much.
Thanks,
Have
everyone.
a good day.